This is Caps PA announcer Wes Johnson, and you're listening to Board the Pod.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new edition of What the Puck. It is a Washington Capitals podcast, and that means it's a podcast about your 2018 Stanley Cup champions. Thank you all for listening to us on all of your favorite podcast platforms, especially Overcast, and we are proud members of the Fans First Sports Network. What's going on, everybody? How's it going? It is time for the regular season. Here we go. The regular season is right around the corner, and the Capitals have made their final roster cuts. Joining me, as always, to talk all about it, here we go. Coach Dan, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling good. Again, I'm on the road. Not at my normal base, so if I sound a little different or if the background looks a little different, that is why. But hey, the nothing out of the ordinary happened here with the Capitals, which is really good news. The guys that we thought would be sent down have been sent down, and luckily everybody passed through waivers.
Well, most of the guys that we thought were going to be sent down were sent down. But as you mentioned, let's talk first about the guys who passed through waivers. There was some smoke, if you will. There was some talk, some theorizing, some speculation that Clay Stevenson was not going to make it through waivers. We talked about it on, I think, the last two shows in terms of what's going to happen with him. And, you know, he's still going to be a member of the Washington Capitals organization. They may have had plans for him, or at least can you get something for him by including him in a trade package for picks or something? Like what essentially is going to happen with Clay Stevenson? And what ended up happening was nothing. He passed Ethan Frank. Both of them cleared waivers. Also a little surprised about Ethan Frank, that a team that rebuilding a little bit is not like, hey, let's take a flyer on this guy. He doesn't cost a lot of money. Why not see what maybe we can pull out of there and see if we can get something for him? And, both of them passed through waivers, made it to Hershey, which is great. I feel like the Bears, are going to have a really good team. They're going to be a bit different than the team that they've had in the recent past. A lot of the veteran guys have been around a while, have moved on to other teams or other organizations or other leagues, for that matter. Whereas the Bears, have a lot of young guys. I mean, there's a lot of guys down there playing. They've got some good vets, and now they know that they're going to have their projected and likely number one goaltender, played really well for them last season, is going to be there again. And that gives the Caps a pretty good third goalie, right? So if something happens to Thompson or Lindgren, you call up Clay Stevenson.
Well, okay, let me ask you.
Backup.
Let me ask you, if that were to happen, we know those two guys are a little injury prone, and when they get hurt, they get hurt together. That's what happened last year.
They're friends. They like to do things together. No need, don't got to harp on them about it.
If you are the Capitals and you do have to call up a goaltender, are both of them under that waiver claim? Like, are they both going to have to pass through waivers? The two Hershey Bear goaltenders. Like, I'm wondering if we had all this worry.
Doesn't.
So do you bring him up because you have to pass through waivers?
So I think the idea in my mind, in their head, I think Stevenson, if it's like an emergency recall or something like that, like he doesn't have to go through waivers. There are some other things we read about last week. I have to look up the waiver rules again because it gets a little wonky when it comes to like a short-term call-up, So, yes, I think if it's a smaller injury, like say Lindgren stubs his toe, like walking out of the house or something, right? Or he's in the locker room and he's like, he trips over Strome's headphones or something, right? And he's like, oh, I can't play tonight. All right, they're like, let's ice it. You can't skate this evening. I wouldn't be surprised, assuming that Bjorklund is the backup in Hershey. I wouldn't be shocked if he was the man to get called up to sit on the bench and open the door for the guys coming on and off the ice, and that's his whole thing. But I think if it's like, we have one of these guys is going to be down for a while, then yeah, I think Stevenson gets the call and probably gets some games, depending on who goes down and for how long. Because I think they see a potential future goaltender in him, But let's also keep in mind, I mean, they have both of these guys locked up for a while. So even if they don't have a
Right.
future goaltender at the NHL level, they might have one trade value, and be able to move him out if he does really well, in a year or so. Because Thompson's locked up with this season as well, 5 years, Lindgren for 3. So unless you move one of those guys out to accommodate him, if he is tearing it up, and you're like, But like we talked about last week, he's 26. He's not like a young goaltender. So he either has value as a future backup, whether it's this season or next season or the season after that. Although, how long is Stevenson under contract for? I'm trying. So they have him this year, and next year he's under contract. So they have some time to kind of figure it out. And, if he does really well in Hershey this year, then maybe he doesn't make it through waivers next year, and they have to think about that in the offseason or during the season. Probably not during the season, because Hershey would be like, dude, we're playing really well. Why are you taking away our number one goaltender? So,
right.
We'll kind of see what happens there. I wouldn't be surprised if we're having a conversation like this next summer in terms of what to do with Clay Stevenson and whether it's him or Lindgren or someone moving on. But yeah, I'm really glad he passed through waivers. I'm glad Frank passed through waivers because he's been great with the Bears. And it'll be good to have him around some of the young guys playing down there and tearing it up, because it's always good for the young guys to have some veteran leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a lot of new faces in Hershey. I'm very intrigued to see what happens to the Hershey Bears this year. I mean, new head coach. A lot of guys have moved on and either in the NHL levels or have gone over to Europe. So Hershey's going to be a very intriguing place with how much success they have just had in the last couple years and how much talent has gone through. But I know a guy like Vincent Iorio. He made the opening day roster. I know you've got to be excited about that. He's got to be excited about that. And even though that last preseason game definitely left some question marks as to the health of some of these players, Vincent Iorio, it looks like he is going to be a lock-in for the opening day roster and will be playing game 1.
Well, we don't know. So, we talked about how the Caps roster is set. Like, kinda. I think the forwards are set. I think we know what we have. I'm pretty confident because we've seen this in the past. They're going to carry 13 forwards. With those, and the lines that we saw at practice, which are likely going to be the lines on Wednesday night against Boston, you got first line of Protostrom and Ovechkin. Ovechkin on the right side, just to mix it up a bit. McMichael back on the wing. I'm sure he's like, oh, guy, I want to play center.
Yeah.
But, he did really well on the wing. And so sometimes it's like, hey, man, I know you want to do this, but, like, remember when you were doing, like, really well and tearing it up and playing at a high level? Like, let's do that some more. So McMichael's on the left with Dubois and Wilson. That was a really good line last season. And when they were like, yeah, McMichael's going to play third line center, I was like, does he need to? Can we get someone else to do that? But then Beauvillier moves to the third line. He's the ultimate utility player on this team. Dude can play on any line. Third, fourth line's probably where he will be at his best or most succeed. To not say that he couldn't on the first or second line, but I feel like that's kind of where his what he brings best to this team is on that third line. He'll be with Hendrix Lapierre, who is playing not with it. It's not a chip on his shoulder. Like, he wasn't wronged in the past, but he's playing with the utmost desire to prove himself. And I don't know if he's trying to prove it to everyone else or just himself that he can be an NHL player. And I hope that he never feels comfortable and continues to put as much energy into it, because if he can, he's going to be a very good hockey player. And then Ryan Leonard playing on the right. So I kind of like that, like Beauvillier with the veteran, sort of been around the league a long time, playing all these different lines, working with Lapierre and Ryan Leonard. It's a little bit of a concern in terms of, like, you have two young guys with not a lot of NHL experience playing with Beauvillier to kind of help them out. I wouldn't be shocked to see a little bit, and we know that Carberry does this. Things aren't working out. He switches the lines mid-game. And then we have Duhaime, Dowd, and Sordiff, and we knew Sordiff was likely going to get an opportunity to play considering what they gave up to get him. Not that it was like a ton, but enough to make you go, they see something in this kid. So you have Duhaime, Dowd, and Sordiff. Milano's the 13th forward. And so that's not a bad 13th guy to have. He may not love that, but it gives them some rotation. It gives them some flexibility. It gives them an opportunity to say, hey, take a night off. We're going to, you got something that's bothering you. Your back's tweaked a little bit. Let's not push it. Go on. Take your time. we're going to put in, want to let him play. And then on defense, they got, we thought we knew what they have, but then Matt Roy gets hurt.
Yep. And
then Dylan McElrath gets hurt. Now, McElrath we thought might be sent down simply because he's less likely to be claimed on waivers than Iorio. He's not to say that, like, Clay Stevenson's an old man at 26. But, like, Iorio's, 22? He's a young, up-and-coming defenseman. He's got a lot of promise. He played pretty well during the preseason. And so I feel like if these injuries hadn't happened, Iorio's a 7th or 8th defenseman on this team, and McElrath gets sent down. But instead, McElrath got put on IR. Roy has not as of this moment. So the defense looks like it's going to be some combination. I think today it was Favari and Carlson, Chukrin and Van Riemsdyk, and then Chisholm and Sandin. But then Chisholm took a skate to the leg or the knee and kind of got rushed off the ice. Now, apparently he's okay, but there's no word in terms of how he's doing and if he's going to play on Wednesday. It seems like they think he'll be able to play, but we'll kind of wait and see, obviously, on that one. So, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe Iorio gets a sweater on Wednesday because there's no one else that can play that spot. Are they already making a call-up? I guess they can't because they're at 23.
Right.
Because they sent down –
Ivan.
He was playing actually defense on the in practice today. He was filling as a defender, but Miroshnichenko was playing D, and now afterwards, I guess practice, they sent him down to Hershey, where he can go and continue to develop his skills and continue to work on some of the defensive aspects of his game that they want him to work on. And I just like, he's getting sent down, and like, how come we didn't make the roster? There's plenty of time for a lot of these young guys. They can take a little longer, and we know that the Caps like to let guys cook for a little bit. Unless they're like one of the high-level prospects. Like Leonard is a high-level prospect. Some of these defensemen have become high-level prospects. Sandin, he's also had NHL minutes, Sandin, that is, playing with Toronto. Not a ton. And they have a lot of faith in Sordev, even though he's kind of a young guy. So, give Miro a chance to go down. I think I feel like they see him as a second or third line winger in the future and want him to continue to develop and get a lot of minutes. And so I see him playing a good amount of minutes in Hershey.
Yeah, he came up last year. What was it? November, December? Like it wasn't that far into the season, I don't believe. But they did give him some time to kind of cook down in the minors. They brought him up. He was one of those guys that came up and down, up and down, up and down last year.
A little bit, and I think that's going to happen again. I think depending how they play, in Hershey, that is, depending on how they are producing and what the situation is. If it's a fourth line guy that goes down or a third line guy that goes down, that might be a little different than a first or second line. And then maybe the first or second line guys, like you bump someone up, right? So say McMichael needs a night off or something, like does Leonard bump up to the second, or Beauvillier likely is the guy that bumps up to the second line, and you put Milano in. But like, if one of the fourth line guys goes down, it's Beauvillier makes it so tricky because you can just put him in where someone else is, right? But depending on the situation who's playing, like I could see Miro getting called up. I could see Cristal getting called up. I could see Baby Pro getting called up. Like any of these guys, depending on how they've been doing and what the need is and how they're overall doing both offensively and defensively. Like if there's still defensive aspects to say Ilya Protas's game that they want him to work on, he's less likely to get called up than, say, Miro or Cristal. But if someone goes down that's like a goal scorer, like, say, Big Pro goes down, like maybe they're like Andrew Cristal, like, hey, we're going to bump Wilson up. You're up, buddy. You're getting second-line minutes with Dubois and McMichael. Tear it up. Let's see what you can do in the NHL level, So I think situationally, I don't know if the opponent, per se, is going to be to dictate who they might call up, more so the need in the forward ranks. And then defense, who do they call up? Right, if McElrath's the guy down, I imagine he's the man getting called up.
Right.
But like defensively, Ryan Chesley certainly could get a look. I believe is it Mugli? Is he going? Did he go to Hershey? I think so. Maybe came out. Like some of these guys, they have some young guys. Maybe not as many as before that are a possibility to come up defensively, but they also carry 2 extra defensemen. Of course, 2 of them are hurt right now. 3 of them are hurt right now. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what that depth looks like if they have, a rash of injuries or something that's like they have to deal with right now. And then also don't forget, it's the wintertime, so sometimes players get sick and they have to, sometimes they call someone up or just have someone fill in. But if they have got a little bug that goes through, the locker room, you got to call somebody up. It'll be interesting to see in terms of who goes down, who can play. So, forward, they got a good amount of forward depth. Defensive depth is a little bit more questionable, but in terms of experience that some of these young guys have in Hershey, not necessarily that they don't have enough of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you already brought up Henrik Lapierre, and you got to be excited for the kid because he got that third line center spot last year, and it just didn't work out. For whatever reason, it took him a couple months, and they're like, yeah, you're still not ready. You got to go back down to Hershey. You got to kind of retrain yourself. And he's worked really hard. He stayed with Hershey all throughout the year, didn't get discouraged, came into training camp and really showed everybody that, yes, I can be an NHL player. And I think he's doing really well for himself. And the fact that he was able to get that spot back really does mean a lot to him. I think it's going to mean a lot to the team. So he's definitely got some heart, and that's what you really need on a team like this. You need a guy with a big heart that will be such a big part of this team moving forward. Now, a guy who's meant a whole lot to this team over the last 25 years is Alex Ovechkin. And obviously, none of us are questioning the talent or the grit or determination of Alexander Ovechkin. However, with the small sample size that he has had in training camp, is there any worry of yours that he might not be able to make it through the season, that he's going to have issues moving forward? He's an older guy, he's in his 40s now, so he's going to maybe have less ice time or whatever. But is there any worry on your part, the fact that Alex Ovechkin didn't go through the regular training camp that he normally had? He had already been hurt, that this is going to affect his season long term?
No, I'm not that worried about it. I think he, at this point, he's going in 21st season. Like, he knows his body. He knows what it needs. They've got a lot of high-priced, I imagine, trainers and people that are around him, both the Caps and then I'm sure his own people that he pays. And so I'm not overly concerned about Ovechkin. I think this team is set up to win with him, obviously, and to do quite well without him. And I think he is in a position to not have that same distraction that he had last year in terms of chasing Gretzky's record and everything. And, then he gets hurt and everybody's like, oh, he's never going to do it, which has added an extra level of I imagine stress to the whole thing. And so for me, I'm looking at it and I'm going, well, he's fine. He's going to do his thing. He's been in the league long enough. He knows how to treat himself. And if he struggles, you can always drop him down and put someone else. That sounds crazy, drop Ovechkin down, but you do it to kind of spread the wealth, or you just mix things up a little bit. But I think he and Strome do really well together. It's going to be, I know you're not going to like this because it's making a football comparison. I think things ain't going so well for your football team right now. But you have a lot of injuries. Okay, that's part of it. But if you look at the Commanders with and without Jaden Daniels, he didn't play at all. Really, during the preseason, he handed the ball off once. It was thank you, everybody, see you later. Yeah. And then he played fine against the Giants. Not great. He didn't play like Jaden Daniels last year, but he played okay. And then he did pretty well in the next game. And then they didn't do well. But then he started. He's out for 2 games. It was past Sunday's game. First quarter, not good. You're like, ugh. And then he did really well again and tore it up. And you're like, oh, okay. I think Ovechkin just needs some time, right? He's 3 goals away from 900 in his NHL career. He's not getting all 3 on Wednesday. That'd be amazing. Especially considering I'm going to be at that game. But I don't think, I think it'll be a little slow at first. He's going to take his time. Not heat, but just the reality of it, And the fact is, teams still double and triple team him from time to time. And what that is it's going to give him an opportunity to set other guys up. So I'm not so much worried about Ovechkin as I want to see, is Alexi Protas going to continue his progression and continue to produce and do even more than he did last season? I mean, last year, where's the stats? Last season, I'm looking at this season. Hello. There are no stats yet. Last year, Protas ended up with 66 points. He had 30 goals and 36 assists. I want to see more. I'm looking for, how many games did he play? 76. So if he can play right around the same number, maybe a little higher, I'd like to see 35 and 40 for Protas. Let's get another one up what you did last year. Can Strome, who had 82 points, 29 and 53, can he get 30 goals or a little bit more? I know it's asking a lot when you get 89 or 82 points. Can he get even more? I'd like to see, can Dubois do more than 20 and 46 for 66 points? Can McMichael, who was tearing up at first, had a bit of a down spout, a little bit of a valley in the middle of the season. Can McMichael do more than 26 and 31? And Tom Wilson do more than 33 and 32? Can Wilson get to 40 goals? Is he a 40-goal scorer? So there's a number of other guys that I think can continue their progression. And then what are we going to see? Sorry, there's way too much Penguin stuff that was in your background. I was like, oh, Brandon, what are you doing? This is the wrong podcast. That's for your Penguins podcast. No, I'm just kidding. Can we see more from these other guys? There it is again. Can we see more from the... No, now it's Canadians. Can we see more from some of these other guys? What's Ryan Leonard going to do? What's LaPierre going to do? Can LaPierre get 15 goals and 25 assists? Can he get more? Can Leonard get, 15 and 20 or 25? What's Sordiff going to do? I have no idea. I didn't even know who they traded for him, and I went, who? I think did I text you? Or did you text me about the trade? And I was like, who?
Yeah.
Who's Justin Sordiff? And now I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Let's see what you got, buddy. There's lots of different things that can happen with this team, and it's going to be fun to see it. But I also think we need to temper our expectations. So if we're 5 games in, and he's got like a goal, we don't all need to be like, First of all, that's still pretty decent stats. But not for him, but let's give it some time before we start freaking out. I think the same was that 2 years ago. He had 8 goals in the first half of the season. Everyone was like, he's done. Yeah. He's never passing Gretzky. And then he scored 23.
He went on the break.
Yo! And then... Yeah, we made him mad. Screw you guys. I'm scoring on everyone. And he did. So, I'm not that worried about Ovechkin. The guy's been in the league long enough. He knows his body. He knows what he needs to do. And as long as he can continue to do, I don't know what he did in the preseason that he injured or tweaked or, he's an older guy. So they gave him some time to take care of himself, and he'll be fine. Let's see what happens. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, all signs point to this being Alex Ovechkin's last year. We don't know that for sure, but at least that's his last year of his contract. So, I mean, with him beating the Gretzky record last year, there's only one thing that's got to be on his radar right now, and that's another Stanley Cup. But we are a long ways away from a Stanley Cup. So that's definitely something that is further along down the road. But, I have no fears. What?
I mean, dude, the year that the Caps won the Cup at Thanksgiving, we were like, well, Barry Trotz needs to go. This ain't working, man. We need a different coach. This guy's not, we're going to make some changes to the roster. And then they were like, oh, really? You think so, do you?
Well, I'm saying down the road, it's almost 10 months from now is when we're going to be talking about a Stanley Cup. Not now.
Was like, yeah, it's going to be, the reality is none of us know what's going to happen, right? There's all the projections and prognosticate, this is what's going to happen. None of us knows a damn thing in terms of what's going to happen, because you can have injuries, you have trades, you have players that just don't do as well as you are thinking they're going to do. And there's been enough movement in this league that you're going, I don't know. You have players that are taking very friendly terms to stay on their team, so they have enough money. So a team like Edmonton, who just spoilers in terms of what we're going to talk about in a minute or a few minutes, but they just re-signed Connor McDavid to a 2-year extension, but he's only getting 12.5, whereas Kaprizov in Minnesota just got 17. Right. McDavid's worth more than that, but he took a team-friendly deal to extend his time because he wants to win in Edmonton. That's 6, 7, 8 million that he just saved them. They can use to acquire someone via trade. And so, Edmonton team, I'm looking at going, he sent a message by taking less money. You better put people around me, because if you don't, I have flexibility to get out of here and go somewhere else where I think I can win. Now, he screwed my plan completely in terms of having him come in if Ovechkin leaves after this season. That's out the freaking window. But I appreciate what he's done by sticking with Edmonton. As someone, if the Caps don't win, I wouldn't mind seeing a Canadian team, not Toronto. I don't like them. But, I wouldn't mind seeing a Canadian team win. Again, if that's the Caps don't have the opportunity to. But there's a lot of things that can happen in the NHL season, and the trade deadline could be a big part of it. I mean, look at what happened. Florida won. They had a big move. They acquired Marchand. Not to say that he was like the reason, but do they go back to back if they don't acquire Brad Marchand and make a couple other moves that they made? Crazier things have happened. And the Caps, as told by Puckpedia, they have $3.3 million in cap space, which means at the trade deadline, they could acquire a player whose annual cap hit at the beginning of the season is upwards of $15 million, which is almost every player. Now, the reason that is that as you go throughout the season, your cap hit gets less and less as you get closer to the end of the season. So, if you acquire a guy that's making $15 million, you're not paying $15 million for the rest of that season. You're paying whatever the percentage is that's left. So there is flexibility right now for this Caps team. Now, we don't know what's going to happen. Are they going to have to acquire other players? Is someone not going to work out? Are they going to make a trade for someone? And who knows what's going to happen? There's a lot. And the Caps have a lot of questions of their own in terms of the roster after this season. No contract for Karlsson. You got no contract. Who else? I mean, there's a bunch of... Karlsson's probably the biggest one right now. But there's a couple other guys that, like, Van Riemsdyk, Karlsson, Milano, Duhaime, LaPierre needs a new deal. Connor McMichael needs a new deal. He's wrapping up 2.1. He's probably getting somewhere around 3.54, 4.5, if not more. So, the Caps have a lot of work to do in the front office, but we don't know what this team is going to look like come the trade deadline or afterwards, or what the league will look like. So, my point is, like, anything can happen. Besides San Jose and Chicago probably winning it. But anything can happen. Those two teams are still rebuilding. But we'll see.
I will say going into this season, I like the flexibility that this team has on the right wing. And I'm just saying, not saying if somebody gets hurt or not, but let's say a line isn't working out well together. You've got Protas, Wilson, they can switch spots. Beauvillier, like you said, can move all around. And he had a fantastic run with Ovi in the playoffs. Like to see what he can do. And sort of this kid that we don't know much about, he's just a giant question mark. I mean, to go from a guy that no one had ever heard of, like, what a Cinderella story for him to be like, we got who? We traded for who? What are you talking about? And then he's on, and then at one point he's on the top line with Alex Ovechkin. Like, that could happen this year. We don't know the talent that this kid has. So we got to get a couple games under the belt for him to see what he can do. I mean, think about putting Leonard and Ovechkin on the same line. You've got the 40-year-old wonder guy who, has been around the league forever with this kid that I don't even know if he's legally allowed to drink yet. Like, put that line together would be unbelievable to see. This, I think that's what has made me so excited for this. He can't. Okay, there you go. That's what's making me so excited for this season, is that last year was kind of surprising that they were so good. Now it's like, all right, we have a lot of the same pieces, but we're still a very young team. What are they going to do this year? We honestly we don't know what this team's going to look like moving forward. And I think that's kind of exciting because, I mean, low expectations, you get high returns at that point.
Oh, yeah. And I think we talk about last year in terms of, like, we didn't know what to expect. We definitely didn't, because they made so many moves for veteran players. And it was like, how are the pieces going to fit? Who's going to play with who? How are things going to work out? And it worked out amazingly. And a ton of credit to those players and the coaching staff, Spencer Carberry, everything they put together to make that team successful. Everything, like, literally every move they made last offseason worked, which is crazy. This year, there's more question. Well, there's probably the same level of question marks, but they're different questions. It's not how are they going to fit. I look at this lineup right now and I go, yeah, that makes sense. At least the forwards, right? I think if everyone's healthy on defense, it's a little different. I think Chychrun's probably back with Karlsson. Favari is probably with Roy, and then Sandina's with Van Riemsdyk. I look at these lineup and I go, yeah. But then I see there's a bit of depth there. If everyone can stay healthy, of course. But like Milano can step in and do a job, and they've got these young guys that, when it comes time to move out of the Ovechkin era, are, knock on wood, ideally the plan is, if everything goes according to said plan. You have Kristall, you have Miroshnichenko, you've got the what's the kid's name, Linkovic or whatever it is, like the young guy that they just draft. You've got bunch of young players that are making their way up. You got Ilya Protas. Like, all these guys can make their way up and start filling in some of these spots that the older guys are likely going to vacate. And so you see the future of this team, but the present, I think, is still a very good team. And it helps, in my opinion, to an extent, that the media, whoever, which I know is a bit of a touchy term right now, but the people that talk about hockey for a living are projecting the Devils, are projecting the Hurricanes, and understandably so. They think the Rangers might be pretty. Everyone thinks the Penguins are going to suck, and I'm okay with that. Columbus is Columbus, but they're not giving the Caps a ton of credit. They're giving them some. And I think part of it's the same thing last year. People don't know what to expect. Everyone thought Carolina's going to win the division. The Caps ran away with it. They still think Carolina's going to win the division, and again, rightfully so. But I think part of that is because they don't know what to expect from the Caps. We don't know what we're going to get from Leonard. We don't know what we're going to get from LaPierre. We don't know what we're going to get from Sortiv. We have a good idea about the rest of the guys, but there's a bunch of question marks around this team. But the question marks were the same as last year. We didn't know what to expect last year, and it was really good. And there's no reason to not believe in this coaching staff. Now, the problem I see is if someone like LaPierre doesn't work, like if it just doesn't work again, obviously you bump McMichael down to the third line center spot, but then like who's coming up to produce? Like who's taking his spot? Because Miroshnichenko is, he's doing okay, but he wasn't a massive goal scorer last year. Like, is he going to come in and produce McMichael-like numbers? Because you have to have someone that's going to come in and produce. Or is it Leonard bump up? Does Beauvillier bump up? Can they produce those type of numbers? So if this doesn't work, then this coaching staff and front office have some work to do. But I have no reason to think it's not, and I think that fire that LaPierre has more or less lit for himself is going to help him get pushed. I think Leonard has the raw talent and just needs the experience and to work on his defensive game a bit. But he has the raw goal-scoring talent that we saw in college that we have every reason to believe is going to translate to the NHL. And he's playing with a vet in Beauvillier and a guy who's going to be able to set him up in LaPierre. And then the top two lines are the same top two lines, more or less, that did really well last year. The fourth line, we don't really know what to expect from Sortiv. I feel like playing with Duhaime and Dowd, two veteran guys, is going to be really good for him. And as long as he can do his job, then he's fine. And if he can't, then maybe Milano takes that third line and Beauvillier bumps down to the fourth line. And now you still have a really good lineup to go out there and compete. So what I'm looking at right now, my questions are about the defense. And that's only because they got a bunch of injuries. Two guys are hurt. One dude got his leg cut off or something like that happened at practice. No, he's fine. He's fine. He's got a scratch. He's got a boo-boo. No, he's fine. So we'll see what happens, and hopefully I didn't just doom them completely. But, I look at this roster and I go, there's a lot of promise. And it's not a super veteran team that you come in like the Caps had for a number of years when they were getting 115, 120 points and you know exactly what to expect. We don't. And it's kind of fun to see some of these young guys and go, let's see how they do.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's more like Alex Ovechkin not expectation, because that's not really fair. I'm trying to think of someone else, but like not a lot of Tomas Fleischmann who were kind of good at first and then kind of fell off. And we get it more like Brooks-like guys and Eric Fair, who started off and did pretty well. The injuries kind of derailed them, unfortunately. This is not a great analogy that I'm making here. But guys that go on to have really good, some Tom Wilsons. Let's hope that Leonard is Tom Wilson 2.0 and that Ilya Protas is Alexei Protas 2.0. And, Cristal comes up and can produce at something close to high offensive numbers, because in this organization is in a really good spot.
Who do you think gets the first Capitals goal of the regular season?
Oh, who scored? Ooh, hopefully scores on Wednesday, because he gets shut out. This is going to be awkward. Oh, that would suck. Like for my kids to be like, we didn't even get to see him score. Like, and now you gotta go to bed and get up to go to school in like 8 hours. Oh, they're gonna be so much fun on Thursday. Who scores first goal? That's tough. I'm going Connor McMichael.
Going with a McMichael. Okay.
See, I was looking at McMichael, Protas.
I mean, LaPierre's been on a tear this preseason.
That's true. I'm a little surprised Milano's not going to dress.
Yeah.
A little surprised, but I also can understand it. But I think it's true. LaPierre has been on a tear. Leonard's done really well. But the regular season's very different.
It is.
I think you said the first goal, so I'm gonna go with McMichael gets the first. McMichael or Chychrun.
Okay.
That's my
All
guess. McMichael or Chychrun. What about you?
Man, do you go LaPierre? Like
What
my
if it's
two are.
Chisholm? You're like, what?
What if it's sort of? What if it's
Where'd
it could
that guy?
be
Oh
sort
my
of?
god, that would be. I'd be like, yeah, yeah, new guy.
Oh man, could it be Leonard? I mean, he's only gotten one goal in the preseason.
I feel like
Could
his
it be
minutes might be
him
a little reduced.
for
Is the
third
first one on
line?
a power play or 5-on-5?
Oh yeah,
Yes,
okay.
even strength goal or a power play. What if it's a
John
shorty?
Carlson goal to start off everything on the power play. There you go. That's what I'm going to say. A John
You're going
Carlson
Carlson?
goal, going Carlson on the power play, first Caps goal of the season.
Okay. See, I think 5-on-5, it's McMichael or Chychrun from the point. What if it's Chychrun with a tip by McMichael?
Oh,
If
there
that
you go.
happens, I'll be like, yeah. And I'm like, wait, that. Texting Brandon real fast from the 400 level. I don't know where we're sitting. 417 maybe?
If you
Yeah,
spot
so-
Coach Dan, make sure you stop him for a photo.
God, my kids will be like, what are you doing? All right, actually, no. My kids will just hide behind me because they're very shy. No, I you know what? I got to check out some of the new stuff at the Caps at the rink.
Yeah.
I don't know. They did a lot of stuff in the locker room. I imagine they're not going to let me go check that out. I don't know if they've done a lot of stuff, or is that I can't remember, or is that going to be after this season that they do stuff more in like the concourse? And I know they did the thing down by the benches, or is it on the other side? Oh my god, I'm blanking on what it's called. They have this new there's like a bar area. I'm thinking like
Oh,
so
like
I
the
went
premier sections. Yeah.
yeah underneath. Oh shoot, wait, let me look it up because it's so expensive, but it sounded kind of cool where you would basically go in and you kind of have this like for a number of seats you have this private area you can go in, like there's I guess food and alcohol and things and drinks that you can go and get and then go back to your like sort of quote unquote private section. I mean, it's a number of rows. But I think it's supposed to, I have to go back and look this stuff up again in terms of what things are going to change, but the outside of the building was supposed to look different. I don't think they've done that yet.
Yeah, it's going to take a couple years to do that. I know it's been a multi-year renovation project. Same thing they're doing with the Ravens at M&T Bank Stadium. They're slowly opening things up throughout the next couple seasons.
Did you see what they did in? Sorry, this website that is open is so bright. Did you my like face nuclear? Did you see what they did? Oh, this is not going to be a helpful link. In Utah. First of all, the mammoth thing is growing on me exponentially. I'm actually really enjoying it. I might have to get a shirt for fun.
Oh.
Did you see? Well, I told you last week. I don't know if it was on air or off the air about the Arizona Coyotes shorts that I got. They were like $15 or something. Thanks, Fanatics. The freaking logo like melted together. I was so annoyed because the Arizona Coyotes have one of the coolest logos. Like
They did.
they did. Well, we'll see if they come back.
R.I.P.
Yeah, but the mammoth. Did you see their? So it was built for basketball, because that was all they had. And then, do you see how the seats now? You gotta look this up if you haven't seen it. They're like not straight up, but it feels like that a little bit. Just to make and like they have great. Oh, I really want to go to a game there because it just looks really cool. Hang on, I'll find a link and send it to you. I'll text it to you because it looks very cool out there. I mean, that's an owner that's just pumping money into what they're trying to do with the Utah Mammoth. And again, the Utah Yeti would have been cool, I guess. The Mammoth, though, I'm enjoying it.
All right.
It's
Getting
grown.
Coach Dan approval.
The jerseys, though, are things. They're so nice. Not getting one because that's gonna be too much money, unless it's like super on sale. But I like the colors and everything. It's really cool. Anyways, I gotta find out all the stuff they're doing for Capital One because I can't remember off the top of my head.
Well, before we get out,
First,
go ahead.
3-year, $800 million renovation project. So,
Remember they were going to build
Yeah.
a whole new stadium and arena and everything in Virginia? Remember that?
yeah, what a dumb plan.
That was just to scare DC into getting to build them what they're doing now.
No, I think he wanted to do it because he was
I
gonna
don't
make
think so.
so much money. Oh, where the vaults? So they're the vault suites. That's what the thing is called. So I'm getting this from the AI overview on Google. The high-end luxury suites located near the penalty boxes open for this season. They have a private bar, a tasting room. What? A dedicated entrance, and an exclusive premium experience. Probably for $11 billion.
See, that's the thing. Like, it is so hard to be a fan nowadays. If John Cena's last match, his final match of his entire career, is happening at Capital One Arena on December 13th for the Saturday night's main
I saw
event.
that. I thought it was a joke someone was making.
No,
I know it was
no,
actually legit.
That is a legit thing that is
Is
happening.
it ever
It's
anyone's
real.
final match in wrestling?
You never say never in wrestling.
Until he needs to promote something, and then, Peacemaker season 3 or 4 is coming out, and he's like, he's coming back to WrestleMania.
Yeah, I'm sure he's coming back at some point, and he'll do a move or two. Whether or not he actually does any matches will be, we don't know. But I mean, The Rock has come back multiple times, and they're still expecting him to come back and wrestle in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, he's a TKO member. But the tickets for the John Cena matchup are absolutely insane. Like, if you want to sit ringside, it's like $11,000. Like, it is absolutely insane. The cheap seats in the 400 section are $300 to $500 a pop. So it's becoming harder and harder to be a fan because you're pricing out families and that kind of stuff, and it's just for like the elite and the people with endless money in their pockets. So it's becoming harder and harder to be a fan. But you've got experiences like this. You got to pay for them somehow, but they're not going just for the game anymore. It's because I guess that's the thing. Like, everybody says, I can just watch this at home in the you're comfortable on your own couch. Now it's like, oh, if you go, you get a whiskey tasting or a wine tasting or these nice comfy seats that rumble when they score and stuff.
When do you do? I didn't really like the rumble pack on the N64. I don't need my butt to be getting a vibration when the Caps score. Like, settle down, everybody. I don't be like, whoa. So I was just looking up kind of what the Caps are doing. I mean, yes, people are definitely getting, and that's across the sports world around the world in terms of how things are going. Whether it's, I mean, they're out with everything going on right now with Monumental and YouTube TV and Hulu Plus. Like, people are, like, they're bickering or whatever, but it's the fans that get screwed. So yeah, I'm like, I used to be able to go to lower bowl seats. I can't afford. I mean, I chose to have children and live the life that I live, and the reality is I can't afford it. But yes, but there's also, that's what the market has produced, right? That's what the market bears, it allows, because people will pay for it. So yes, there's some things where, like, owners have a responsibility to the fans because they're the ones that give you a bunch of money, but so do the marketers, and so does other vendors and corporations that come in and will give you money, and you have to be able to keep them happy as well. It's unfortunately the world that we live in. But what they are doing for the fans is there's apparently, again, this is according to Google AI, so take that for what it's worth, 60% increase in concessions and a 30% increase in restrooms. I gotta tell you, actually, there are not enough bathrooms historically at Capital One Arena. And I think that's why the lines to the freaking bathrooms are always so long, is because there's not enough of them.
Just not enough.
So hopefully they added some more bathrooms. Sounds like 30% more bathrooms. Wider entrances. I never really felt like that was a problem, but whatever. It sounds like the concourses are wider. I don't know how you did that, but they did that. Cutting edge technology to enhance the guest experience. That's not very specific. So I don't know. I'll have to report back to you after I go to the game and see what's really changed for the fans early on. But this is a 3-year process, so some of this we gotta scale back and be like, wait a minute, they haven't gotten to some of that stuff yet. It doesn't happen overnight.
No. This all takes time, and we'll see what happens down the road. But I know before we get out of here, you wanted to talk a little bit about the new contracts around the NHL, because Connor McDavid isn't the only guy to get a new deal. There's a couple other ones going on. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm just watching this Travis Hunter catch. This guy's ridiculous. He almost gives that guy a piggyback ride, still carries. No, he almost is given a piggyback ride and still caught. Good God. Anyway, sorry. I got distracted. Anyways, yeah, so McDavid signed a deal. He's not the only one to sign at Edmonton, as they signed defenseman Jake Wallman to a 7-year, $49 million extension. His cap hit comes to 7. Minnesota signed goalie Philip Gustafson to a 5-year, $34 million deal. His cap hit comes to 6.8. Anaheim signed defenseman Jackson Lacombe to an 8-year, $72 million deal. He becomes the highest paid player in Anaheim history. His cap hit comes out to $9 million. Florida signed defenseman Nico Mikola to an 8-year, $40 million deal. His cap hit comes out to 8. And New Jersey signed defenseman Luke Hughes to a 7-year, $63 million extension. His cap hit comes to 9. So lots of guys getting paid. And we're seeing a couple of young guys. I can't remember who they are off the top of my head, but I remember reading this earlier today. A couple of young guys who have declined new deals for lots of money because they think they can make more. They know that the cap ceiling is going up, and because again, that's what the market will bear, they are rightfully asking for what they believe is to be fair market value for what they can produce. So this is something to pay attention to, again, as we go into an offseason where Connor McMichael is going to be a restricted free agent, where Alex Ovechkin is going to be an unrestricted free agent, where, Milano Duhaime probably won't get a ton, no offense to them, but like LaPierre is going to be a restricted free agent. So this is an even bigger season for him, not just because he wants to play in the NHL, but he's going to need a new contract. You've got Carlson, who needs a new contract, Van Riemsdyk, Iorio, and then there's a bunch of guys in the minors in terms of Miro needs a new deal. So there's a lot of things going on, Bjorklund as well. So there's a lot of interesting aspects to the financial side of the league and players and seeing where that goes. And, I said, what, 4 to 5? I wonder if McMichael asks for more. Obviously, this will depend on how his season goes, but something to pay attention to with this team going forward.
Lots of stuff going on around the NHL, and the beginning of the regular season starts on Tuesday the 7th. The Caps got to wait until Wednesday, and they're going to be on TNT nationwide in prime time. But until then, Coach Dan, have we covered everything for this episode of What the Puck?
Is that why the game's at 7:30? I was annoyed when I saw that. I was like, God, I just get a 7 o'clock game. I get home in a decent hour. Come on, y'all. No, I think that's it, man.
All right, well, hey, if you want to continue the conversation with Coach Dan or I, you can. It's real easy. All you got to do is follow us on social media. I am on X and Blue Sky at Brando Cash. Coach Dan, where can people follow you at?
You can find me on Blue Sky at Coach Dan, talking all kinds of Capitals-related stuff. On there talking about not just the Caps, but Arsenal Football Club. The Bills, with an embarrassing display last night, did not look like the Buffalo Bills. The Commanders with a good win over the weekend, also on there talking about lots of sports. Too much Penguins on your screen behind you, man. Lots of sports. Really, every time you turn, though, it's not them. You just think I'm like messing with you. I swear to God, it's there. There on the Blue Skies. So that's at Coach Dan. But hey, if you've enjoyed the show, go ahead and check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/whatthepuckpod. It's where we'll post when new shows are coming out, as well as all sorts of things related to the Washington Capitals, the Hershey Bears. I got to go to a Bears game this year. You know what? We got to meet up at a Bears game.
That'd be fun.
You and your soon-to-be wife, bring my family. My kids can not talk because they'll be too... Although, dude, how weird will it be for them to see you in person? Considering they like to talk
3D,
to you.
yes.
Yeah, they're going to be like, he's the real... 40. He's a real person, you know? That'll be so... Actually, you know what? My son will be shy. My daughter will be shy at first, and then she won't shut up. That's the thing. She just... So... yeah, that's somehow finding us on Facebook at facebook.com/whatthepuckpod. But Brandon, just a few moments ago, I was talking about the embarrassing effort for the Bills. There are no longer any undefeated teams in the NFL after their piss-poor efforts against the New England Patriots. And I was talking about the Washington Commanders with a good win over the Chargers after an ugly first period. But if someone happens to be a fan of a certain purple-clad team based out of Balmer, is there a podcast they should check out?
Well, you're talking about embarrassing performances on Sunday.
I was not trying to set you up. I promise. I was not trying to set you up with a segue.
Like my team, the Baltimore Ravens, and how they played on Sunday. But me and my buddy Josh, we're still talking about the Ravens. We're not fair weather fans. I think more than. I think the team that's missing is a Pro Bowl team. So it's kind of, it hasn't been a good year for the Baltimore Ravens. But as things progress for this team, you can listen to me and my buddy Josh on the Call podcast. That's where we talk all things Baltimore Ravens, including what potentially could be coach firings. Who knows what's going to happen?
I feel like that's not fair. If there's that many injuries, you'd be like, you're fired. It's like, I didn't hurt him. Like, what the? I don't know.
I know, but you look at a team like on Thursday, who was it, the 49ers, who were able to get a win, and they had so many
Who
guys
they play?
injured. Who did they play? It was L.A., right? The Rams? Was it the Chargers or the Rams?
Are they good this year? I honestly have no idea. Normally the Rams are good. Right now I'm going, are they? I know
Yeah.
McVay's still coach. I just can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I can't find a good picture of these freaking seats in Utah. I'm telling you, man, they're nuts.
But if you are a Baltimore Ravens fan, check out my Baltimore Ravens podcast, Call the Call, wherever you listen to this podcast. Let's go over the games until we talk again. How about that? On Wednesday, October 8th, the Capitals will be up against the Boston Bruins. That game starts at 7:30. You can watch that one on TNT and HBO Max. And then on Saturday, October 11th, the Capitals travel up to Long Island, and they're on Long Island against the Islanders. That game's a 7 o'clock start. You can watch that one on the Monumental Sports Network. On October 12th, Sunday, the Capitals go to MSG. They're up in Madison Square Garden already, up against the New York Rangers. That game's at 7 o'clock. You can watch that one on the Monumental Sports Network or on the NHL Network. And then on Tuesday, October 14th, the Capitals come back home up against the Tampa Bay Lightning, 7 o'clock start, and you can watch that one on the Monumental Sports Network or on ESPN. I don't know if you have any experience with this new ESPN app. It is awful. I didn't think it could get much worse. The
I
new
haven't opened it. No, what's different about it?
So there's a new ESPN app that's like ESPN All or whatever, not ESPN Plus. It's called like ESPN, just ESPN or something.
Like a phone app or like for the Fire Stick? What are we talking about?
It's a new streaming app. You can get it on everything, but it's where like you can exclusively watch WWE and they have all of the 800 ESPN channels on it. However, if you do want to watch something that's on ESPN Plus, it's exclusive on ESPN Plus and not on this ESPN app. So they have multiple apps that you have to pay for multiple fees monthly. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I don't know which ESPN the game on the 14th will be on, if it's on Plus, if it's on regular ESPN, if it's on this new app. I don't know. None of it makes any sense, and it's stupid.
It says just ESPN.
Yeah.
But who knows?
I don't know. It's ridiculous, but too many apps. I sound like an old man. I just want my clicker and 3 channels, but
yeah, well, I like more than 3, but yes.
Yeah, but that is pretty much it for the show this week. Be social with the show. Write us an Apple Podcast review. Rate us over on Spotify. Let people know. Say, I'm a Washington Capitals fan. I listen to What the Puck, and you should too. So that is pretty much it for the show this week. Everybody, say it loud, say it proud. Let's